Hello guys, today we're doing a video on the RF35 1.8 IS. A lens that I never thought I'd have. I got it on a good deal with an RP. So we'll see how long I end up keeping it, if I end up keeping this lens. For sure selling the body of that RP. I just like the R so much better. And I don't see the point for a secondary camera yet. However, I just had a random thought. I do want to start creating more videos with other creators, so hopefully one day we'll find those. So I love a 35mm as much as anybody. And if you haven't used one, I recommend just picking up any 35 that you can. This one's probably going to be your best bet because it is quiet enough. It's a little bit louder than the L glass I'm used to using, but that's to be expected from a $500 lens that you're not going to have every feature. This one also has IS, which is the only 35 I think that does, other than the EF F2, which that on the used market and the new market is way overpriced, that you're better off just going with the RF, obviously, if you have RF mount. And if you don't have RF mount, I kind of highly recommend that you jump ship from EF, since everything's slowing down on the EF side of things, and maybe jump into something like an RP, which I will have a video coming up soon on how I feel about the RP and the R, especially now as used market is starting to either get more expensive, while lenses are getting more expensive, while camera bodies are becoming a bit cheaper to get your hands on, such as the R or the RP. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take you around the house while I do some turning off of the lights. So I don't know if it's maybe the camera that I'm using, which is the R, or the lens itself, but it has a little bit of trouble, it looks like, focusing in lower light. I'm cranking to 5000 ISO right now. So you're probably wondering, why are you vlogging pretty much on a 35? Well, honestly, I'm just going to show you that, like, this lens is going to be used for probably most of your scenarios, as long as you're not doing anything in harsh weather, because obviously there's no weather sealing at a $500 lens. IS, wide aperture. It's almost like a jack of all trades lens. Obviously not something you would use in a telephoto scenario, but if you have an R camera, you could crop in and get like, what is it, like a 60mm if you crop it on a 35? I don't know. Let's look that up. So yeah, it's like a 56mm, but whatever. I just ran into a spiderweb, gross. But also, this lens, we're always assuming that like working professionals are using these lenses. Maybe you're just a normal content creator where like you're just gonna be everywhere. Maybe this is gonna be your main vlog lens. Maybe you have a friend that films you, which would be nice. I wish I had one of those. It'd be easier on my life. But honestly, this is just an all-around good lens. Still cranky in ISO. I look really sharp. The autofocus is great on this lens because it's a Canon and on a Canon system. You know, and you'd be prepared to pretty much shoot wherever your content takes you, because f1.8, that's a pretty wide aperture. Personally, I've only shot widest at f4 for like the last year. I haven't had a prime one since my 51.2, the RF one. So right now, like usual in my videos, I'm driving to the lake, and we're gonna test out this lens a little bit, maybe on some macro photography. I can find some cool little bugs or something, or you know, or get a nice shot of the wide angle of the lake. Should I do the rest of the review in that chair? Psych! Something I will say about this lens that I do like is the shots, you can get really close, closer than any 35 that I've used. And I've used the Sigma, this one, and the Canon EF 1.4 version 2. Although that is my favorite 35 still, just because of how stellar the image quality on it is. Yet again, I haven't pixel peeped this one very much and done a whole lot with it. Like I said, this is kind of a first impression slash like quick review on it, because I don't know how long I will have this lens. Oh look, the skydivers. Their plane is going up. Alright, so I'm shooting on the RP right now with the 24-105. I wanted to go ahead and show you how far the barrel of this lens does extend. So depending on your focus, this thing does extend quite a bit. I don't know, that might bother some. I mean, it doesn't really bother me, although I thought it would. But that's just something to keep in mind aesthetically. So at this point in the video, I'm going to be using the onboard mic so you can hear how loud the lens is, or the audible noises it does make. Our test subjects are a 68 Mercury Cougar, a 69 Pontiac GTO, and a 68 Chevy El Camino. So I'll go ahead and be quiet so you guys can hear how the motor works. And as for this one, it just happened to bug out, and we'll see if it recovers. Okay, it did recover. Also, what I've noticed, in video mode, when you're doing focus pulls, the lens is much slower, but quieter. But then in stills mode, it's more snappy and like much louder. Okay, so I'm gonna try to pick this up on this camera. Let's crank that ISO a little bit so you can hear the snappiness of the motor. Still focusing on the three same cars. The autofocus is much faster. Obviously this is more of a sound test than a visual test. I think out of the cars, between the El Camino, the Pontiac GTO, and the Cougar, I think out of these three, I'd probably pick the Cougar. I don't know. What do you think? Let's go ahead and move on to the stills segment of this video. I'm going to go ahead and put the non-edited photos up, and then obviously the edited photo, because I feel like you're getting kind of scammed usually if somebody just posts like crazy edits of a lens and you don't really get to see what the before looks like and the after. So my wrapping up thoughts on this lens, for it just being like a quick take. I've had this lens for maybe 24 hours, but I feel like I've used it enough in multiple different scenarios to where I know what I'm